If you look at the guided notes for this section, our example here, let me just set the stage or the context of our work. I would like to know what learning style statistics students have. I collected this data from the students in my statistics classes last summer. We are going to select a simple random sample, or SRS, of size 5 from the population of students in the statistics classes last semester. So let me give you a little bit of information here that we're going to need in order to do step 1. Our first step, anytime we collect a simple random sample, is to label the sampling frame. Now we're going to take a look at the sampling frame here in a minute. I want to give you a little bit of information about that sampling frame though before we look at it. The sampling frame consists of 100 students. And we'll see in a minute that I've collected a lot of information from them. So here is the handout that you were given, or the link that you were given for this handout for this lecture. And if you look through it, we've got 100 students. I collected the gender of each student, the preferred handedness for each student, the height in inches, the number of pets they owned to date, the distance from campus in miles, the travel time to campus in minutes, and their learning style. We're going to take a look at their learning style right here. Now, they got the learning style by taking a learning style inventory for me, and there are several learning styles. One is visual. You learn primarily by pictures, diagrams. That's the way you take in and process information. Another learning style is reading, writing. You prefer to read and write your information. That's the way you learn best. Another learning style is oral. You learn by hearing best. And then kinesthetic. So there are 4 learning styles here. Kinesthetic, you learn by doing. And so I would like to know what the primary learning style is. That would be very helpful to me as a teacher. So I'm going to select a simple random sample of 5 individuals to get that information. So when we label our sampling frame, let's do a little bit of thinking here. Suppose I label it using the digits 1 to 100. That is probably the most natural thing to do, but that's going to create a problem. Let's look at this. When I go to step 2 and generate my random numbers, that's always the second step when we're selecting a simple random sample, I'm going to use the random number table that I mentioned earlier, the table that's in the back of your book. We're going to start at line 127, so we can all practice this together, and I have recorded those. I've reduplicated line 127 and a part of line 128 here to help us out, so we don't have to shuffle back and forth. Now, when we read these random numbers, notice that we skip the line number. That is not a random number. That's a pattern number. So we skip that entirely, and we just start with the first digits in the first block of digits that we see in line 127. Well, if we label our sample frame 1 to 100, we're going to have to read that table 3 digits at a time. And most of those we're going to have to throw out. So if we did that, our first record number would be 439, too big, gotta skip it. 099, notice that I just keep reading these digits in order. Just ignore those breaks. They're just to keep you from going cross-eyed. They're there just to kind of help you keep your place in the table. So 439 didn't work. The next 3 digits in this random number table are 099. I could use that one. 947, throw it out. 725, too big, throw it out. 330, too big, throw it out. 643, too big, for it out. You get the picture? 594, too big, throw it out. Oh, 008, there's our second one. Well, if we adopt this practice, we're going to be here a long time trying to get 5 individuals from the sampling frame. So let's put on our thinking caps and let's be a little creative here. What if I started my label at 00 and I went to 99? That's a much better idea, because now I can read my table 2 digits at a time, and guess what? Since I'm using all of the 2-digit numbers, every single one of those 2 digits is going to work. So take a minute to label your sampling frame. I've left a column here, the last column, to label your sampling frame. Start with the label 00 and go down to 99. When you've done that, turn the lecture back on and we'll proceed. Now that you have your sampling frame labeled, we're ready to generate our random numbers. So let's start. 43, our first record is 43. 90, looks like our second record is 90. 99, our third record is going to be 99. 94, our fourth record will be 94. And 77, that will be our last record. The last step is to record the data from our simple random sample. So I've got the record numbers right here that we're going to be using. We used chance to generate those individuals, so it is a non-biased sample or unbiased sample. It's going to represent the entire population of 100 students. And so let's take a look at the sampling frame and get that information. So number 43. If we come down here a little bit, let's see, number 43, here's record 43, happened to be a female whose learning style was reading writing. So we'll enter that data. Now we've got three random digits that are in the 90s, 90, 99, and 94. So I'm going to pull all three sets of data or values for that data at one time. So let's come down here to the end of our data set. Record 90 has a learning style of visual. Record 99 is multimodal. That means that they had more than one preferred learning style, kind of a couple of them that were equally weighted. And then finally, record number 94 is reading writing. So it looks like we've got visual, multimodal, and then reading writing. And finally, we'll go back and grab record 77. So record 77 is right up here, another multimodal student. And there's our simple random sample. Pretty simple. No pun intended. Now I'm going to give you a chance to do some work yourself. We're going to draw a simple random sample of 5 females and 5 males from the sampling frame. Excuse me here just a minute. I'm just going to erase these stray marks that sometimes happen. Let me get these out of our field so they don't distract us. Now this type of sample has a special name. It's called a stratified simple random sample. I'm going to use SRS. What we've done is we've broken the population up into 2 strata. Now strata is just a fancy name for subgroups. We've taken the population and split the entire population up into 2 subgroups here, male and female. And we're going to select some from each strata. We're going to select some males, we're going to select some females. So the first step is going to be the same as it was in the last example. We're going to label the sampling frame. Now we've already done that, so we don't need to label it again. But I do want to go back and look at the sampling frame, because when we generate our random numbers, we're going to select the females first. We need to generate our random numbers. We're going to use the random number table to do that. And I'm going to let you do that on your own this time, since I've already done an example with you, just to make sure you've got this skill down pat. It's a very, very useful skill. So we're going to start at line 146 of the table to randomly select 5 females. Remember, I'm just crossing out that line number because that is not a random number. That's not to be used. That is a pattern number. But I want to look at the sampling frame, because if we look at the females, notice that the record numbers for the females, I listed those first. We're going to begin with the label 00. And as we go down through this, notice that record 59 is the last female. All the records from 60 to 99 are males. So let's note that on our notes here. Females go from 0 to 59, and males go from 60 to 99. Those are their sampling frame labels. So when we select numbers from our random number table, we want to make sure that we only include the numbers 0, 0, 2, 5, 9. So stop the lecture, do your work, and then come back and see if you've correctly selected the sample. Hopefully you found that the numbers 37, 57, 34, let's see, 01, and I'm just crossing out the ones that are too big, and 50. Those are the random numbers generated by our table. If we take a look at the sampling frame, we want record 37 and 57. So record 37, sure enough, is a female who's multimodal. Record 57, also a female, also multimodal. So let's write those two down. I'm just going to write multi here for both of these. Our next record was 34 and then record 1. So checking record 34. 34 is a female who's reading writing. Record 1 is a female, also reading writing. So let's do that. And finally we want record 50. So coming down here to record 50, a female who is also reading writing. So there are our 5 females. Now we're going to select the 5 males, but we're going to use our graphing calculator to generate the random numbers to select the 5 males. And the reason we're going to do that is because we can set up the graphing calculator to give us random numbers that are just between 60 and 99. That would be a little tricky on the table, but the calculator makes that much easier. So using our graphing calculators, we're going to generate random numbers to select 5 males. We're going to seed the calculator with the number 1350. I just chose the numerical designator for this particular class. That's where that came from. I just chose it for us. And this is like selecting the line at which to use the random number table. So remember, we use the random number table all starting at line 146. Well, if we all seed our calculators with this same number, 1350, then we're all going to get the same random numbers. So how do we do that? I've written the instructions down for you so that I can show you how to do that. So if you get your graphing calculators up here, let me just get this into the field so that you can see it. I think you can see most of it right there. We're going to type in the number 1350. Then we're going to find the store key. It's right above the on key. And when we press that STO key, we're going to get that little arrow that says, I'm going to store that. We want to store it in the random number generator. Now we find the random number generator by pressing the math key, using our right arrow to go over to the PRB, probability menu, and number 1 is random number generator. So press enter to select the storage place, press enter, and it says, okay, 1350. 1350 is stored in there. Now we're going to generate our random numbers. To do that, we're going to go back to our math menu. We're going to arrow over to PRB. And this time we're going to select number 5 because we want random integers. So we're going to press enter. And now we want to tell the calculator which random integers we want. We want the random integers between 60 and 99. Now we have to separate 60 and 99 with a comma. The comma key is right above the 7 key. So find the 7 key, and the comma key is right above it. And then we'll type in 99, and then we'll close a parenthesis. When we press enter, we get our first one. That's 80. 78 is going to be our second record. 69, our third record. 78, we're going to have to skip that, so we only have 3 records. If we get a repeat, we just have to skip it. 61 and 85. So 80, 78, 69, 61, 85. So I've transposed that to my table, and now we'll take the sampling frame, go to the sampling frame, and collect those that data. So we want the data for 80. We have a male, just as expected, who's kinesthetic, and we also want the data for number 78, record 78, also a male who's reading writing. So reading writing and kinesthetic. I'm sorry, that's the wrong way. Let me just fix that. kinesthetic was first and then the reading writing, I believe. We want 69 and 61. So 69 is going to be a male who is kinesthetic, and 61, another male who is oral. So kinesthetic and oral. And finally, record 85. So coming down a little bit to record 85, we have a male who is kinesthetic. So there is our stratified simple random sample. Why? Because we just broke it up into two groups, two strata, and selected some from each strata, some from each group. And remember, the third step is to record the data for the simple random sample. So now we know how to get good data that will give us good information. This ends the first part of this lecture. In the second part of this lecture, we're going to take a quick look at a sample survey, at a survey done right. And so when you're ready, go ahead and start the second part, but be sure to print off your guided notes before you do so.